Welcome to our channel. I'm really glad you're here. I'm Mike with Zippy Snap, and I hope we can craft a kinder, more creative world together. Today we are going to make this cone station. One of my favorite things about it is in our last craft we made the ice cream cone and the ice cream to put in the cones. So today we're going to put a 3-cone holder, and it's going to be our cone station. On the difficulty meter, I would say that this is a 4 out of 5, which is a challenge, but it's going to go through it step by step, so you'll do just fine. You can download this craft template from zippysnap.com. The tools we'll be using today are scissors and tape. So with these tools nearby, let's get to crafting. So we're going to start with our template, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just start cutting out this graphic, which is going to be our front. And feel free, if you want, you can cut it out just a little bit above that line, so that way you don't see the cut line. And there's that one. To build this structure, and we'll set that aside, to build the structure, we have some structure components here. This is going to be an 11-inch pipe, and I'll tell you about what a pipe is here in a minute, but we're going to have to kind of do a little bit of housekeeping to get everything started. This is why it's a little bit of a challenge. So one thing you can do is if you have a paper cutter station, you can use that. It might speed things up. So we'll cut this right through here. And you don't have to be super diligent, or you don't have to be super careful in cutting. You want to make sure you're getting it, but it's okay if it's a little sloppy, because all of this is going to be the frame. So we're going to build a frame to put this cone station in, so you won't see these. These are just how we're going to build it. So it's going to be very strong. And what I'm going to do, I'm just taking a look at our structure. So I'm going to take a shortcut here, and I'm going to show you the shortcut, which is we're going to roll these together. So to make our pipes, what I mean by that is, so for example, if we want to make this into a roll, what we can do is we're going to roll this up. So since I want to see these cut marks and I don't want to have to do these individually, to save some time, I'll flip this over. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of tape on this back side right here, so that way when I get there I don't have to tape it again. So the key to making pipes is I like to do a fold and crease it like you're folding a piece of paper. I'll do a second fold, and then from there we're just going to, if you look, it's going to be just rolling. We're just going to roll it, and it's going to make what looks like a pipe. So, and it doesn't have to be the prettiest thing, but these are a lot stronger, so you have a lot more strength because it's not just one piece of paper, it's probably 4 or 5 times rolled in there. Now, since I did a little bit of a shortcut, which means I have 3 of these that I want, I'm going to go ahead and tape in between each of these sections. So we're going to just tape right there, and now with the scissors, safely you can cut right down those little lines. And you'll see, instead of having to do them individually, because we could just cut them and then roll the second one, we did them together. So I'm going to do the same on this one. And I always like to do you just got to make sure that when you do roll, put the dotted line face down so you can see where you need to cut. And again, fold, fold, and then we'll start rolling. And it makes what looks like a pipe. Now, because again, this is 2 of them put together, we're going to do a cut right down the middle. So these are our 3-inch. And so we have 5 now. And you'll see there's 3 more right here on these 3-inch. So we're going to cut. And we have a graphics panel, which, when I say graphics panel, that's just a picture. That's going to be on the outside. So these are just graphic panels. I'll set those aside. We'll come and cut those again in a minute. So we're going to shape this one up. And yeah, that looks great. And I'm not even gonna cut that side. You'll see why in a second. I started to, and then I said, you know, you don't have to. So what we'll do again, so I'm gonna put a piece of tape on this back side. Just makes it easier for me so I don't have to grab tape while I'm folding. So I'm gonna fold, and you see you can make those longer. They don't have to be short. So if you look, that's piece said to cut. You don't have to cut. It can always be longer. If you go shorter, they'll be a little bit less sturdy, and you want to have a little bit of stability in the structure, so that way if you're hitting it or moving it, it's not gonna, maybe not hitting, but you know, softly touching, moving, it'll stay strong. All right, so now we have 8. That's great, great job. So we'll do the big ones. Now the big ones you have to do individually because of how they were rolled, and we're rolling the long edge. So I'm showing you how, if you don't go ahead and put the tape over there, you gotta hold it with the other hand and then put a piece of tape there. Now since these are so long, these are the 11 inches, they're a full length of paper, we're gonna put a piece of tape at the end of each side. Just so there's 3 pieces of tape on this, 1 in the middle, 2 on the sides. Just keeps it together. Again, fold, fold, and we're gonna roll, 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 roll. So they're all different sizes, and so this was one of my favorite things to make as a kid. I rolled these, and you can build all sorts of imaginative things with just rolled paper. It makes it so much stronger. I used to build forts and all sorts of fun, creative things. My parents had maybe I shouldn't say this, but my parents had the air conditioning came out of the floor. So on one of my forts, I had put a trash bag over the air conditioning vent and taped it to the floor. And then I made a piece of paper coming from the trash can into my fort. So I had air conditioning and heating in my fort. So you can do all sorts of imaginative things with these. All right, so we have 4 of those. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build on our structure. So our structure is basically 2 rectangles. So how we'll do that is we're going to get 2 of the 11 inches and then 2 of the 3 inches. And you're going to put it like this. That's how you want it to look. And we're going to do this twice. So get a nice long piece of tape, and then I just tag it there. I don't typically roll it around because the tape will sometimes split, and then just bring it around. So it's not well put in there because you haven't rolled the edges back around this 3-inch pipe, but I'll do what I call a collar. So I get another piece of tape, and then on every single one of these, I'll put a collar around the 2 pieces of tape. So you kind of are going around. And so again, we'll do a little bit longer piece of tape. I'll just put one right there, come down, and you're trying to make sure that these are on the same locations. Otherwise it'll look all funny and it won't quite work. So we got 2, so that's pretty good. This one's raised a little bit, but not enough to make much of a difference. And then we'll put a collar around there. And it's okay if there's still some sticky edges. This is all going to be inside, so inside the structure, so it's more of just a base structure. And then same on this one. Now this one, you see we have 2 sides, we got to put this one on. So what I'll do is I'll lift that up, touch that there, and then put this one right here, the long pipe, and then wrap it over. And then like everyone gets, I'm going to put a little collar on it. I have a collar, let's put a collar on it. And now we'll do this other one. Same way, I'm just going to lift it up, lift that right to there, and put it on, and give it a collar. So now we have a rectangle. We're going to do one more, so we'll set that one aside. Again, putting that there. Now you could do it this way. This is your other way of doing a rectangle if you wanted to put the edges on that side. For what I'm doing, I'm going to do it this way just because the graphics is only 11 inches wide, so if you do it the other way, the graphics, the image on the front won't cover it. Won't cover the whole structure, so that's why I'm doing it the inside instead of on the outside, the pipe cleaner. We're going to put a collar on it. And then the same way here. And if you're ever too short, if your piece of tape's not quite long enough, you can always put another piece of tape onto that piece of tape. You don't have to just, abandon that piece of tape. So let's say I get too short of a piece. I come in, I put that there, and set that down, and it doesn't quite reach. All you do is get another piece of tape, put that piece of tape to that piece of tape, and now you've taped them together. That's the wonderful thing about tape. You can keep making tape longer. Just keep putting pieces of tape on the end. And same here. We're going to put this on that side, put that there, and we're going to do a little collar. And now we have two rectangles. So now we actually have to, looking at our structure, we're going to now build it up to have it actually be a cube-like shape. So what we're going to do that is we're going to put these 3-inch pieces in between there. So if you're looking from the camera above me, it will look like this. This is kind of a hard part to do. This is why we call this a challenge. You're going to get a long piece of tape, and then I like to put it on an angle at the corner, and we're just going to put it in here like that. So now you can see it's on there. You won't always get that the first time, and now we're going to put a collar on it, just like we were doing before. That's a very hard maneuver to do that I've just done over the years. But it's okay if it's not super tight, or if this is a little bit off. Like you'll see that one's a little bit off. It's not fully at a 90-degree angle, if you know what I mean. So you can kind of adjust it, and you see I actually broke the piece of tape when I was adjusting it there. But if you don't adjust it at this step, that's also fine, because when we bring the next step in, it'll get stronger when that next top gets on. So again, we're going to kind of go at this triangle. So we're going at the triangle here, bring it on, and we're just trying to get it somewhat on there. It's not going to fully take, and this is our last side here. So put that right here. And this always reminds me of a chair at this point and what it would look like. And you can see this is actually pretty loose. In fact, I think I might have broken that piece of tape off. Not uncommon. That's why it just becomes a tapey mess at some point. This isn't, the more tape, the better, in my opinion, on this. So now we have a chair almost. But this doesn't have a lot of stability because these are pretty not great connections at the moment. Once we put the image panels on and tape it together, it actually will get stronger. So we're now going to put this top on top of it right there. So look, if you're looking from above, this will be how it's going to look. But it's kind of similar. What we're going to do is I'm going to start with it right here. Get a long piece of tape, find a corner, bring this piece in, and the first one's the hardest. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's hard. That first one, you see, it just starts to kind of fall over. You're trying to kind of center it up, and then the collar will help where you put the tape around it. That will help kind of bring it together. Now I can work on it on its side. So we'll come and do the same thing. Again, we're doing what we were doing when it was flat. Same type of tape method, but it's obviously a little bit harder to work with at this point because of how it is. And same way here, we're going to come in from this way, and then I'm going to flip it this way so you can see, putting that right there, and then bringing that over. And the method on the first one is not to get a great fit. The collar is where it's going to really affix it or make it really strong. This little first piece is just really a line-up piece. This piece I'm doing right here. You're just trying to line it up, put it under here, and then you're trying to hope the tape kind of gets in about the right place. And then once you do the second piece of tape, that's when it gets way stronger. So now you see we actually have a rectangle, a 3D rectangle. So we're pretty well on the way there. So the next step, we'll come back to these graphic panels, these images, and we're going to just finish cutting these out. So you're probably like excited, ready to put this together, and I didn't cut the graphic panel out. One hint I'm going to give you on these top two graphic panels is I'm not going to cut the edges where they're white space. I don't, since it's a little bit, you can just use those to tape over. It doesn't necessarily need to be cut. And then we'll cut these two. These are the side panels. The side edges, you see those types of ice cream? Take a guess. Which one do you think the one is right here? I'll give you a hint. If you have smelly breath, you might not have smelly breath after you eat it. Any guesses? Mint. Yes, there you go. All right, so we'll start with the, before we do that, let's actually start with this top. So this is the top piece. This is what is going to hold the cones. So the cones are going to just come in and then just sit right here with the ice cream. So we'll cut it out. So I'm just going to fold it. Just be careful of your fingers in the back. And just a gentle fold. So just there, and then we'll stick the scissors in. And when I get to circle cutting, I use the upper part of my scissor to start cutting in very small cuts. Because otherwise I'm going to get very aggressive in my cutting, and the circle just doesn't look very well. And turn it with your other hand. So I'm right-handed. I'm cutting with my right hand very slightly, very small cuts. And my left hand is doing the turning, the work. And that's where it goes. Now the great part about this is because this is a these waffle cones get smaller to bigger, you can actually make the cut bigger. So I'm going to show you on this one. Let's say I accidentally overcut it. So you see I'm just overcutting it. It will still sit in there. Now they'll sit at different heights because cones, you know, where it hits on the cone is going to be a different point. So that's a much bigger circle. And then same if you went too small. So let's say we just did a very small one, and I'm doing it not a well job, so that way, you know, you at home will have a much prettier one than the one I'm making right now, just to show you some how it would look. So let's say we do that really small one there. So what we'll do now is I'm going to choose the top. So if you look at the edges here, I want them to push down so that there's a piece on top and below it. The reason I want that on top and below is I feel like that's a little bit more structurally stable. So kind of like a house, when you build it, there's a piece of wood and then there's wood on top and below it. I want that to be the top side. So I'm going to go ahead and just tape this panel on. This is our fun side of the waffle holder. And then I'm going to flip it over. And we'll put this as just a side panel. So we'll line that up. And I'm just putting a piece of top, bottom, left, and right. So one on each edge. You'll probably want to come back and get the corners. I'm just not doing that at this one. And I'll flip this side over, do this. Now you'll have all the ice cream. All your friends will come over and say, "Hey, can I have some ice cream, some waffle cones?" You'll be the most popular person. And then we'll put mint. I'm going to choose mint for this side. This is for the people that maybe need some. Mint doesn't actually brush your teeth. It just tastes like mint. I should say that. So you need to still brush your teeth. I highly recommend that. My dentist would tell me, brush your teeth, and floss. Always floss. All right, and this is the last piece right here. Again, you tape those edges. I'll let you do that at home. Just doing these corners. And so this is the underside, and so you can see what we now have is our cone station. Because I did the different sizes, one thing I'll show you is they still fit. That one fits very high. You'll see it sits really, really high. This was my really big one. That sits really low. And it actually has a little trouble sitting because it's so high in there. And then this one right there. So you have the cones. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for crafting with me today. I hope it brought you joy and helped your creativity grow. Always remember, You matter and you are valued. I look forward to creating our next craft together very soon. Goodbye.